Hi everyone, today I am making some cards that I'm playing around with because I need a swap card using this stamp set. I signed up for a mini catalog swap with some other demonstrators, and I signed up for this stamp set and another one, so I have to make two, but this is the one I'm going to make today. And so I'm just playing around with some ideas, and I thought maybe I would make a few videos with the ideas and decide then which one I want to use for my swap. But it's watercolor month. July is watercolor month, and so I'm going to play around with some watercolor ideas. So I had an idea. This one kind of has a watercolor look to it already. It looks like a brush used to create the images, and I love the background. So I'm going to take that even further by actually doing a watercolor technique with the watercolor images. So make it even more watercolory looking, and let's see how that works. So I am using some watercolor paper. I'm not 100% sure this is the current Stampin' Up watercolor paper. This is from Stampin' Up, but not 100%. I think the new watercolor paper might be smaller. I'm not 100% positive. So I need a card base for this, or a matte piece, and I'm going to make it 5. Let's see how big are these. Yeah, I'm going to do 5. Turn it around so you can see the numbers. By 3 3/4, and I'm going to do this in 2s, just because it's easier. Okay, I also am going to use this is my image layer. Then I'm going to do a matte layer. So I'm going to do shaded spruce, and this one I'm going to do 5 1/4, just 1/4 of an inch bigger, by 4. Whoops. And then I wanted to use a new in color. I'm going Parakeet Party. So I'm going to make my card base out of this. And so my card base I'm going to score at 4 1/4. The scoring blade, and then cut at 5 1/2. Now I normally already have this layers and everything already cut before I do a video, but I have run into more newer stampers lately than I ever have before, and they did not realize that a card base is actually an 8 1/2 by 11 sheet cut in half. And so I thought, hey, maybe other people are not aware of that too. There's other new stampers out there, right? Okay, so those are my pieces. And this is why I like to work in 2s, because I'm cutting a piece in half anyway. It just works out nicely, especially with this size watercolor paper. So here's my layers. I'm going to do this kind of a thing. I think it's really bright. And, you know, I like to sometimes have my Christmas colors be more traditional, but for some reason I just was feeling bright today, probably because I'm making Christmas cards in the summer. So here we go. Now my thought process here was some branches. I'm using decorated with Christmas, so I'm thinking of decorating a Christmas tree, right? So I'm going to use these branches, and I thought I would have them kind of coming off the side, and so I am going to use this guy here. I already mounted them on blocks. So this one is kind of a background stamp, and I thought I would do this in the Parakeet Party in the background, and then stamp on top of it with the shaded spruce, so they're layered, and do some kind of spritzing with my water brush, perhaps. I think actually I'm going to layer the water brush down first. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use a lot of water, so I actually do have a water cup. There is water inside here, but I want to wet the whole thing, so rather than squeeze and wet, I'm going to dip just to be fast. So I should have my ink open because I want to be fast here. So this is Parakeet Party. And I'm wetting that watercolor paper. Okay, and I want my greeting to be down here at the bottom left corner. So I just want to make sure it's totally wet. I can tell that ends here or not, but I don't want it to be dripping, so Now this is 100% cotton paper. It's going to absorb that water fast. So I'm working quickly. I'm going to have the branches kind of coming down. So I'm going to put 1, 2, let's do another, and then some up here, maybe one more. Okay. So look how it, even though I used that stamp that has a watercolor feel to it, it's bleeding out because I wet the paper. And it's going to curl, and that's okay. You can cut your paper to a bigger size and tape it down and then trim if that curling bothers you, but it doesn't bother me. So now I'm going to do the next one because I like to work in twos. I'll speed up this one so you don't have to watch the whole thing again. Okay, there's 2. Now I want to, these have to be completely dry before I do that. They don't have to be, but I want them to be completely dry because I want to have a little more control over what I'm doing. So while those are drying, I'm going to use that little scrap that was left over, which I don't know what I did with, to paint some, I'm going to paint the paper and then use it to cut out. Did I show you the dies? I don't know that I showed you the set really well. I'm kind of getting right into things. It's a really cute stamp set. It's called Decorated with Christmas. It's got some nice greetings. What really drew me to it was the image, because I love the watercolor look or the sketchy look. I can see that this could be something that was made with a brush pen, and I just love that. And so I instantly loved this set right away. And then look at these dies. Are amazing. So you've got some that'll cut out the actual stamps. So you've got like the outline of the branch and the outline of all 3 ornaments. But the additionals are really great here, and I want to point them out. There's a detailed pine branch, so imagine you layering actual cardstock pines here instead. That's really pretty. They've got additional bows to like hang up your ornaments. You've got stars. Oh, I liked how there's a different ornament than, so you've got the ornaments that are pictures, but then there are even more. You've got these outline ones here, and then even a bell. And I really liked the bell idea because I thought that would be great for both wedding and Christmas. So this is a really fun bell, and also the kids do a bell thing at Christmas sometimes too. So if they do that again this year, maybe for their teacher, a little bell card would be great. So the dies for this are fantastic. I also like this starburst. That's super cute, whimsical little starburst. So I love the dies for this set. Okay. Oh, and the stars are attached, so you only have one pass with one die to keep track of. But there's 9, and then one bigger one, so 10 stars, and I like that also. So wanted to point those out. Okay, probably these are almost dry now that I've done all that chit chat. I usually keep scraps in the back. That's too big. I want to use up a scrap. And let's see what I have here. I have the robots on the back. I made a whole bunch of robots one time. Okay, so we'll do this. Now for the ornaments, I just want them to have a watercolor look. So I'm going to use some of the in colors. I'm trying to use the in colors. And I'm just going to paint, so I need some ornaments I want to be kind of more blue, and some I want to be more of the red. So I'm using Tahitian Tide. This is Orchid Opulence. I'm still not great on my names. Orchid Oasis, and Sweet Sorbet. Okay, so I'm going to wet the paper. I'm picking up ink. Now I color right out of my pads. It's just what I do. I watercolor all the time, and so I just kind of do that. If you don't like to watercolor out of your pads, I was going to do it this way, but this just is too small for me. You can get ink on your block and paint from there, like a little mini palette, but I just go right from my pad. So I got some ink straight out of the lid, but then I'm also kind of watered it down because I want light and dark bits. So I'm just kind of doing that. And then when I want to go to a different color, I just get out my Stampin' Scrub and squeeze the barrel, and water comes down that brush and just kind of cleans it for me, which is awesome. So that's one way to do it. Then I kind of wipe it over here to make sure it's clean. And that way I'm not wasting a bunch of paper towels. So now I want to get some of this lighter Tahitian Tide and add it to the mix here. Now, one way to get ink into your lid is to close the pad and squeeze down so that the lid touches the inside of your lid. The pad kind of makes contact and then you get a little bit of ink on there. I don't do that because I always buy a refill whenever I buy an ink pad. So that's something that I think is a great idea. Whenever you buy an ink pad, always instantly buy the refill. That way you know you have it when you do need it. I mean, sometimes you don't need it for a long time, and then what if the color gets discontinued and then you don't have it anymore? So I love to have them. There's all kinds of techniques that you could do with ink also, like watercolor and, you know, baby wipe technique, all kinds of different techniques that use the ink. So buying it just makes sense. Might as well do it at the same time. So here I'm just trying to get some color. I'm just playing around. I think I want more. So it's a mess looking, right? Just want to get a little more of the orchid. Okay, that's my blues. Good enough. And now for the reds, I'm just going to clean. Okay. Now on this side I'm going to do some reds. I'm only going to do just sweet sorbet and just some dark and light value of sweet sorbet. So I'm not going to do two colors. So I just want to get it wet. And whatever patterns I'm making, it's not going to matter, like these little scratches, because it's going to get cut out. It's a very detailed die. No one's going to see the pattern, you know. I just want darks and lights and a watercolor look. That's all I'm going for. Okay. That's it for my water brush. Let me rinse. These come in a 3-pack from Stampin' Up. They're great. When you fill them, I always want to mention this, when you fill them, go backwards. It's, you know how they're not made in the US where you have righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. You want to do the opposite of what you think and fill them up with water. There's techniques where you can fill them up with alcohol, different fun things. So it's a great little brush. I think we're done with sweet sorbet. Okay, so now we need to cut these out. So I'm going to use the ornaments that have all the little cuts in them. Okay, so I need to try and get a good amount out of this little piece of paper here. Let's see. While I cut these, I will fast forward. I'm going to pause for a second and point out, at Stamp Camp I sometimes bring this little machine. I have the big one too, but sometimes I bring this little machine, and one thing that happens often is that people, when they go to cut things out, they take the plates and line them up, make them perfectly blunt like that, and the machine doesn't like that. So when I put them down to cut, I make sure that the plates are staggered. For some reason the machine likes that better, so I just kind of stagger them a little bit. This one will go like that, and then they don't meet. When they go in through the rollers, they're not meeting at such a blunt edge. They're meeting with a little bit of give, which then catches the roller, and then it goes through just fine. So I wanted to point that out, just in case you were unaware. I think it's a great little machine. So if you didn't know that and you got it and you're like, why doesn't it cut? Look at how you're putting it through. All right, now I need some blues. Okay, now what I want to do with the ornaments is kind of swap the insides, a red for blue. So I made even numbers, 2 each of each shape in red, and then 2 each of each shape in blue. And what I want to do here, I have to empty all the little pieces. All right, now I want to stick them back in, but I'm sticking them back in the wrong color. So I need to take something so that they hold in place, and I thought I put on my desk. Here we go. I found some just regular Scotch tape. So I'm going to cut off like a little squarish amount here, and then I'm going to put it on the back with the sticky side going this way. So I'm going to put it across, and hopefully does that cover all of it? Yeah. So at least it covers a little bit of each section. And then I'm going to find the blue matching section and stick it in there. Okay, I've got them all on there, and some of the tape extends a little bit, so I'm gonna just trim up some of the tape. Okay, all my ornaments are done. Okay, so the next step is to add our second layer to the piece here, and for this I'm going to use shaded spruce. Okay, and now I want the stamp that has the stem on it, the more detailed stamp. I think I'm going to add the branch, stem, the stick part with a marker, early espresso, just because it'll be easier. Now, when I stamp up multiple colors like this, I like to use markers sometimes, but on the photopolymer, the stamp pads just seem to work better. And sometimes I have Stampin' spots, those little spots in various colors, but I didn't have shaded spruce or early espresso. Kind of bummer. And you can buy them uninked. There's little tiny spots, little mini square ink pads. They come in paper pumpkins, and I looked through all my paper pumpkin colors, and I didn't have the colors I wanted. I know next month is going to have a brown, so it's going to have 2 colors next month, but I don't have it yet. So I'm going to carefully ink up. You see how I'm kind of carefully avoiding the brown. And that's the nice thing about the clear stamps, is I can do that. Okay, so I'm going to stamp on top of that parakeet party. Now, how perfect it is not going to matter, because this is going to be spritzed a little bit. So see how I missed here? That's okay, because the spritz will hopefully take care of that. Now, I think the rest of them are not going to show the wooden little stem, so I'm not going to worry about it. There. Okay. Now we're going to do this one. I need one with the stem. Let me clean it. Okay. Now, if you're not aware, you can color on your stamps to get multiple colors on one stamp. I love that with the Stampin' Write markers. Don't do this, though, with the Stampin' Blends. Those are alcohol-based permanent markers, like a Sharpie. And if you were to use, a brown, if I were to do the same thing with this, it would permanently ink up my stamp. And also not much, if you did it super fast, some of the ink may transfer onto your image, but not really a lot. And this is a water-based, so it's perfect for this technique. Right, so I'm carefully inking up around that branch. See, I did pretty good. And to do this one, but again, I don't think any wood is going to show on the others. It might on this one, so maybe I'll carefully do that one as well. Oh, just a tiny bit showed up. Okay. got my branches done. Now I'm going to add water again. But I want to stamp my greeting first before I do that, just because it's going to curl and I don't want to do it after. So I want it to be nice and flat. So I put my greeting on my Stamparatus, and that's because the Stamparatus allows you to stamp more than once. And when you're using a watercolor paper has texture to it, and you might not get a good crisp image. I probably will, just because my ink pad is relatively new. Now I'm just going to stamp this with a waterproof ink called StazOn. If you don't have StazOn, stamp last, because then the next thing I'm going to do, the ink will bleed. Now where is my StazOn? I thought I got it out. Yes, I did. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to ink it with the StazOn, which is waterproof. My StazOn pad, like I said, it's pretty good. It's pretty juicy. I inked it recently, so I don't think I need to stamp it again, actually. But if I had, I would have been really bummed to have done all this work, and my image would have been, it would be so hard to match that up again, even with a clear stamp. So I love the Stamparatus on watercolor paper, just because you get a second shot at it. Just make sure that you've got your cardstock tucked all the way in the corner, so you know exactly where it goes. The magnet helps it hold in place. And again, I don't have to do it twice, but if I had to do it twice, I would have been really bummed. Okay. There we go. All right, so right now it looks nice, and you can leave it just like this. But I really wanted to kick up the watercolor effect a little more, and so I'm going to grab my Stampin' Spritzer, if I can find it. Here it is. These come in a 2-pack, and I should look that up. I haven't got this new catalog memorized yet. The other one I could just flip right to what I wanted. I feel like it should be past here. Oh, nope, here it is. Alright, so this is a Stampin' Spritzer. You can fill it with water, you can fill it with alcohol, you can fill it with ink and water to get a nice little shimmery spray, and they come in a pack of 2 for $3.25. A great deal. And I actually bring one of these little guys with me to my watercolor class that I take in my town, and use it to start my watercolor paintings and stuff like that. So it's really a fabulous little thing, a little tiny guy. Love him. And then here's those water painters I was telling you. They come in a pack of 3, and you get one that big tip like I was using, that's flat brush, and then you get 2 smaller size tips for all kinds of watercolor techniques. Oh, here's those spots I was talking about. You can get the classic spots, or you can get uninked ones. And here's StazOn. So this is your great friendly page of inks on page 129, or you can look it up online, and it's got all kinds of great tools. And this is like my favorite little, I think I have everything on here just because I need all my tools. Heat gun, embossing, I love the palette knives. Super fun. All right, I digress. Okay, so I want to add a little bit of water to this to kind of make my ink spread a little bit, and I don't want to get too carried away. And normally I wouldn't do this right over my project area, but I want it to be on camera. So normally I would do it up. For some reason, I think it looks better, or it works better when I do it up, like here. And so I'll do one that way. And I also don't want to get water all over my workspace, so so on camera this is going to be difficult, and hopefully it'll work okay. But and you don't want to go too up close, and it's going to smear. See what I'm saying? It smears out, and I might have got too much water there. You can kind of tilt it, and then just let it sit for a minute. I usually put a block to help it not curl. And I don't mind how much water's on there, so it just kind of depends on what you like. Let's see if I can do this one with a little less water. There. Okay. Now if you want it to dry faster, you can grab your heat tool. Try to go straight down so you're not blowing ink, although blowing ink could be a nice technique as well. Okay, we're nice and dry, And I'm going to go ahead and put these down onto their matte piece in Shaded Spruce. I want to make sure this is dry so I don't put this upside down and then smear something. Okay, now this paper, I've tried to use the tape runner, and sometimes because of the watercolor paper and the cotton, it just pulls up. So sometimes with watercolor paper, I do a little overboard, and I use the tear and tape, just because it does sometimes warp. You might have noticed I dried front and back. That helps with the warping. But where's the end? It's so funny, I can't find the end. There it is. If I put tape all the way around, it kind of helps the card hold flat. So normally I wouldn't put this much adhesive onto a piece, but this is going to help it lay flat. Doesn't that look pretty on that matte? I think so. And I love the bleed. So I don't know, does that look too messy to you? Do you like that? I love watercolor bleed. I think it just looks pretty. It's kind of magical. It just kind of does its own thing. You can't control it. Okay, so now I'm going to add my ornaments. And like I said, I needed a couple of each. So I wanted one red round. Did I make too many ornaments? I did. I got a little carried away. I don't know what I was thinking. Okay, I made too many ornaments. There we go. It's okay, I can use them on something else. And now I'm going to just use a little bow in the elegant trim. This comes in a 2-pack, silver and gold. I'm using the gold, either one would work. And I'm just going to make little bows. Okay, now to attach these, I'm going to just use some glue dots. Oops, wait, I thought my ornaments were actually attached. They're not. I want to attach the ornaments with dimensionals just to give them a little height. Okay, so you can decide where to put them if there's an area that you think is not your favorite area. But I kind of like all the areas. Maybe here. Okay, so now glue dots. I got one there. And then I think that putting it on a base of Parakeet Party is really going to make the brightness factor go up a bunch. So I like the dark with the up close to the images, but then the card base will be Parakeet Party. And I'll show you my first try at it and see which one you like better. I mean, I think I like the brightness of the Parakeet Party. The other one I did was just all darks, and I really think that this Parakeet Party really is fun. Okay, so let's mount that. So here I'm no longer going on watercolor paper, so I'm going to go ahead and use my Stampin' Seal. There, what do you think? I think it's fun. Okay, now here was my first try, and I didn't use Parakeet Party. I went with just the same colors on top of each other, tone on tone. So I've got Shaded Spruce with Shaded Spruce on top, and then I didn't do that extra step of misting. So it's just one layer of misting. So I don't know, let's see what that would look like. Kind of put that there. I like it, but for some reason that Parakeet Party really brings a brightness that I enjoy. I think if it had been November, I would have maybe liked this one. Oh, and I didn't do the different color, I didn't swap the inner, the inner pieces on this one. I just left them alone, and then I took a Wink of Stella pen and added some shimmer to the ornaments with that Wink of Stella pen. So I think both versions look good. I really like them. So I'll mount this onto a piece of Shaded Spruce as well. I don't know, I like that one too now. Oh, and I took an extra step of adding a little bit, you know how when I was cutting the ribbon, there were all these little bits left over, oops, little bits left over from just trimming the ribbon down. And I used those to make hangers, and I was trying to decide if that was necessary, and I think no, it is not necessary. So on these, I just did the bow. But if you have a different opinion, let me know. So what do you think? I think it was fun. I think it's a fun technique. I love the bleed, but this is a little more controlled. Let me know in the comments what you think. I'm so happy you watched. Thank you so much. And if you would love to subscribe, I would love to have subscribers. So thank you for watching if you've made it this far to the end. Bye.